verse together. Victory in Jesus, my Savior, forever. He sought me and He bought me with His redeeming blood. He loved me ere I knew Him, and all my love is due Him. He plunged me to victory beneath the cleansing flood. Amen. Well, I'm grateful that we can experience and enjoy victory. Are you on the victory side tonight? I trust that you are. So good to see each of you here on this Sunday night service, and good to have my family here with us. And some of them were here this morning, I failed to mention, but then some joined this afternoon, and we're glad that they're here. Good to see Maddie back after having a little dental procedure and so forth. Glad that she's doing better. Glad that she's here in the service tonight. Well, let's stand together. Let's invite the presence of the Lord. And this is kind of a missions-oriented service tonight. And let's just trust the Lord to have His way in our hearts and lives tonight. Let's pray. Father, we thank You for the opportunity that is ours of gathering together in Your house once again on this Lord's Day. We thank You. We thank You for Your help throughout this day, Your help in the service this morning. But this is another service, and Lord, we recognize that missions is something very near and dear to Your heart. And as we participate in this mission service, I pray that You will continue to work in our lives. May everything that is said and done exalt You tonight. May it please You. Lord, as we exalt You, You promise that if You would be lifted up, You would draw all men to Yourself. And so, Lord, as we do that, we're trusting You to do what You said You would do. Bless in every part of this service in Jesus' precious name. Amen. You may be seated. Let's join in the singing. Brother Tallman comes to lead us tonight.
Get your hymnals, 390, 390. Upon life's boundless ocean where mighty billows roll, I fix my hope in Jesus, lest anchor on my soul. When trials fierce assail, storms are gathering more, I rest upon His mercy and trust Him more. I've anchored in Jesus, the storms of life I'll brave. I've anchored in Jesus, I fear no wind or wave. I've anchored in Jesus, for He hath power to save. I've anchored in the rock of ages. He keeps my soul from evil and gives me blessed peace. His voice has stilled the waters and bid their tumult cease. My pilot and deliverer, to Him I'll confide. For always when I need Him, He's at my side. I've anchored in Jesus, the storms of life I'll brave. In Jesus, I fear no wind or wave. I've anchored in Jesus, for He hath power to save. I've anchored in the rock of ages. He is my friend and Savior, in Him my anchor's cast. He drives away my sorrows and shields me from the blast. By faith I'm looking upward beyond life's troubled sea. There I behold a haven prepared for me. I've anchored in Jesus, the storms of life I'll brave. I've anchored in Jesus, I fear no wind or wave. I've anchored in Jesus, for He has power to save. I've anchored in the rock of ages. Praise the Lord. Amen. Turn a little bit further in your hymnals to 462. 462. My soul in sad exile was out on life's sea, so burdened with sin and distress, till I heard a sweet voice saying, make me your choice, and I entered the haven of rest. I've anchored my soul in the haven of rest. The tempest may sweep o'er the wild stormy deep. In Jesus I'm safe evermore. I yielded myself to his tender embrace, and faith taking hold of the word, my fetters fell off, and I anchored my soul. The haven of rest is my Lord. I've anchored my soul in the haven of rest. Sail the wide seas no more. The tempest may sweep o'er the wide stormy deep. In Jesus I'm safe evermore. The song of my soul since the Lord made me whole has been the old story so blessed of Jesus who'll save whosoever will have a home in the haven of rest. I've anchored my soul in the haven of rest. I sail the wide seas no more. The tempest may sweep o'er the wide stormy deep. In Jesus I'm safe evermore. Oh, come to the Savior, he patiently waits to save by his power divine. Come anchor your soul in the haven of rest. My beloved is mine. I've anchored my soul in the haven of rest. I'll sail the wide seas no more. The tempest may sweep o'er the wide stormy deep. In Jesus I'm safe evermore. Thank you for your good singing.
Amen.
Well, thank you for those songs. Who spoke to me tonight. This time we're going to move to a time of prayer. I'm going to ask if Brother Albertson, if you would pray for us. She has to have several prayer requests. Kayla has further testing she has to go through, I believe, coming up here in the near future. So let's keep her in our prayers. Brian Redmond's dad, he said he should have test results soon. So let's pray for that and that situation. Let's continue to remember Janet Albertson in our prayers, of course, and Emily Albertson with their internship. As I am also my internship, I understand it can be a bit different. It's a bit of a change of pace. So there's those natural worries and concerns with that. So let's keep her in our prayers. Betty Lawson, Joyce Cooper, George Gardy, as they all have different physical needs that they're going through right now. We ask that you just continue to remember them in your prayers. The premature twin that was mentioned this morning, Layla, I think we should remember that situation. That has to be pretty tough on the family and all that's going on there. So let's remember that family, especially in our prayers. And also with the families, with the shooting that happened, obviously, continue to remember them in our prayers. That is a very, very difficult situation for sure. So let's please keep remembering them in our prayers. And Beth Sankey, as she is in a similar situation of the possible threats that were made in that school, we ask that you would just let's continue to remember her in our prayers. That's frightening as well. And then Sister Keaton has a quadruple bypass on Tuesday, so that probably has some concerns and a little frightening, so let's remember her in our prayers. And with it being a missions emphasis tonight, I think we should remember our missionaries. I think of the family in Ukraine. What was their name? Sobeys. Yes, Sobeys in Ukraine, with the work that they have done there and just different missionaries around the world. So let's just remember whoever comes to your mind, to remember them and pray for them with the challenges that they face and as God uses them to advance the gospel. So, does anybody else have any other prayer requests tonight they'd like to mention? Okay. All right, yes, let's remember him for sure. Any other tokens? Yes. Yeah. All right. Certainly remember that. Anyone
I have
else?
a former professor I mentioned in the sermon this morning, Sister Elaine Nicholas, has fourth stage cancer and is facing potential treatments, but she has an infection that has to be gone before she can face those treatments. Otherwise, the infection will get into her bloodstream. So I wish you'd help me pray that her infection, they can get that under control.
Yes, let's remember that. Brother Stroud's professor with the cancer that she's facing and the infection that's there. So let's remember her in our prayers. Is there anybody else? If not, I ask that you all stand with me as Brother Albertson leads in prayer.
We thank you, Lord, tonight for the opportunity that is ours to come into your presence. We thank you, Lord. We thank you. Exceeding abundantly above all we ask or think. There's nothing too hard for you. We praise you tonight. Would you please help us?
get your hands on the Lord. Oh, thank you. We thank you and we praise Oh, Jesus, would you help us? Yes, Lord, help us. Help us. Oh, Jesus, would you please? Oh, God, would you come and do your work, Lord? May your kingdom come. Your will be done. We thank you. Oh, pray, oh God. Yes, Lord. Oh, Jesus. Yes, we're trusting you. Help us. Yes. Oh, God. Oh, Jesus, would you please help us in this service? Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. Oh, God, would you please help us tonight? Oh, Lord, please help us tonight. Amen. Praise the Lord. Thank you, Brother Albertson, for leading us in prayer tonight. I think one of the most encouraging passages of Scripture in the Scripture is when Jesus said, "I will build my church." You know, as we think about missions endeavors and whether it's just across the road or on the other side of the world, we have the promise that Jesus is going to build his church. Now, he chooses to use us. He chooses to work through us, doesn't he? But he is the one who builds his church. And the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. I thank God for that tonight. Well, I mentioned we've been announcing for some time that we are going to be lifting missions pledges for tonight. And we regret that we're a little behind schedule. So I think you've probably been continuing to just give what you had pledged last year. You've continued to do that throughout these past few months. And so we regret that we are so late in getting this done, but we wanted to take some time tonight to lift some pledges for our missionaries that this church supports. And Brother Stetler tried to explain it, at least on Wednesday night, and maybe even explained it last Sunday while we were gone. But typically the way that works is the Women's Missionary Society work together and try to think about who they would like to support, this church would support. And so they have selected 3 different missionaries. And we are supporting the Schaefers. No, let's see here. Not the Schaefers now. The Cressmans, the Meltons,
and Jeremy and Esther Hopkins. We've just picked up Jeremy and Esther Hopkins. The Schaefers have moved off of the field in Guatemala and are now in Bedford, Indiana, working at the office and doing things in that capacity. And so we have dropped them and we've picked up Jeremy and Esther Hopkins. Of course, we have a special interest in Jeremy and Esther, and so I'm very, very grateful that the WMS have selected them. And so those are the missionaries that we are supporting. Now, our anticipation is we would like to raise $400 a month that we can send to our missionaries. And we would spread that money out and give to all three of those missionaries. And so I know that this is a Sunday night crowd, and I know that there are several of our people that are gone, and so we may want to do this a couple other times. But we want to raise this support, and so typically how we do this, and I know some people are a little hesitant to just kind of maybe raise their hand and maybe make a public display of what they're doing. And if that's the way you feel, that is perfectly fine. You can let Renee know or myself know, Brother Tallman know your plans, but it just helps us kind of get an idea if we're close to the mark of what we are wanting to raise for those missionaries. So typically what we've done is we've just allowed you to respond in the service, and if you raise one finger, that means you're willing to give $10 a month. If you want to do two fingers, that's $20 a month. And three, that means $30 a month. And I did not make that real clear this morning when I was talking about the Bibles. And some people were telling me fingers, and somebody was raising their whole hand, and I don't know if that meant 5 Bibles or 2 Bibles or what. But I didn't make that real clear this morning. But I want to be very clear on this tonight. And so if you want to give a certain amount of an offering for each month, we would recommend you do it in increments of 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, however you want to do. So is there anybody right now, and Renee, I hope she's can at least observe and help us out, so we want to count so we can get close to the amount. Right, so this would run from now until December, and then January we'll do this again, and then we can do it for a full year. All right, so we are hoping to have, by the time this is done, either tonight or after we've done it a couple times, we want to have 40 different $10 pledges per month. So is there anybody that would like to just go ahead and begin raising your hand as you've thought about what you want to give per month, that I can begin doing some tallying? Anybody? All right. All right. Okay. 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 All right. Let's see here. All right. Okay. Anybody else? All right. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? All right. We will do this again for those that were not able to be here tonight. Anybody else quickly want to get involved? Okay, thank you very, very much for that. And we will do that a couple other times before we are done. And if you do not feel comfortable doing it as we did, you can certainly let us know. But tonight, that would be 29 so far. Thank you so very, very much. And we'll do that again at a later time, and I'm confident that we'll get to the 40 mark. All right, I appreciate that very, very much. Let me also mention just a couple of other announcements. We've been announcing about the parade that is going to be taking place tomorrow in Florence, and so you need to be there by 9:30. They begin shutting down the intersections, and so everybody know where this parade's taking place. Maybe you don't. It's down, if you go to the Boone County High School, that's where it's going to start. So if you're going to participate in the parade, we're going to have a truck and a trailer there. Several people can ride in the trailer if you don't feel up to walking, but we're going to need several that are going to be walking and passing out our Vacation Bible School postcards. And, of course, we pass out candy along the route as well. So we're going to need quite a few people that are willing to walk. And then we do have some limited space for people who want to ride in the trailer. And we welcome you to be a part of that. And so you will need to be there if you're going to participate in the parade. You need to be there by 9:30. So if you're running a little late, there is a way the back way around. You can get off at Turfway and go around and come to Kentucky 18. The back way, and most of those intersections aren't closed. So I think you can maybe get around that way, hopefully. But the safe thing is just be there by 9:30, and then they begin closing off the intersections at 9:45. If you're just wanting to watch the parade will be running from the Boone County High School towards 7175, and they'll turn left on Ewing Boulevard, and we'll end at the municipal building down there off of Ewing Boulevard. So if that's the parade route, and I think you'll begin to see a lot of people gathering and where the parade will be headed. But we encourage you to come. That begins at 10 o'clock, and so we are number 40 of 41 participants. So you're going to have to wait a real long time to see the Burlington Church come through. So, but don't think that we've bailed on you, okay? just stay around, and we'll hopefully be there. But as I looked at it, I think we're about the only church participating in the parade this year. But I'm very grateful that we are, and so we encourage you to be a part of it, or at least come and watch, and we will have a great time together, as well as advertise for our Vacation Bible School. A couple other announcements that Kyle mentioned this morning I want to reiterate. June the 7th at 7 o'clock is going to be the young men's Bible study, and Kyle will be providing the Bible study lesson for that. But I'm also going to be incorporating, as Kyle mentioned, be incorporating some hands-on experiences that will just help these young guys as they get older. He mentioned changing the oil in a car and those types of things. And so I'm going to be soliciting the help of some of the fathers or older men in our church that would want to participate. This very first one, we are going to be changing some light fixtures. And so if there are some men at our church that would like to participate and you know a little bit about electricity, and I'm not going to stare over at Greg O'Donnell, but no, I'm only kidding. But I seriously would like to solicit the help of several people, because the board has agreed to change out a few light fixtures in the parsonage. Some of them or all of them that we're changing out have been there since we've moved in, and some of them need a little updating, and some of them aren't working, and the pull chain broke. And anyway, so the board has agreed for us to change these light fixtures, and so there are 6 that need to be changed. And so my hope is we can have about 6 guys that are not afraid of electricity. We'll shut the breakers off. You don't have to be a he-man and do it with live wires and so forth. But we will shut those off, and I would like about however many guys, a couple of the boys, to gather around that guy, and he can show them how that's done, and just kind of give them a little bit of hands-on experience of how to do that. I think that's valuable, and so that's what we're going to be doing on June the 7th. And so if they can participate in that, and then of course we'll also be having the Bible study as well. So we'll be doing that spiritual uplift as well as the practical experience, and so we encourage these young guys to participate in that and put that on the calendars if at all possible. We've also not mentioned youth camp. Pilgrim Youth Camp is coming up very shortly, June 13 to 17. And so if you're interested in going to that, I believe my wife has already sent out a messenger information about that, but you can register online, and encourage you to do so. And also there's also the Bible Bowl questions, I think, that you can download at that website. And then Randy's camp, I think, is the next week. And if anybody's interested in that, I think he's got some flyers, and they're on the table out there in the foyer, and so you're welcome to attend that as well. June the 19th, the PM service is a baptismal service. We've been announcing that. If anybody's interested in being a part of that and being baptized, let myself know, and we'll do our best to work through all of those details. I think so far we have 4 that are interested in being baptized, so you're not going to be the only one. If that make some of you nervous, but we'd encourage you to participate if you'd like to do that. And weather permitting, that is the same time as the same date as the God's Bible School group is going to be here to sing. And so we're going to kind of work that together. May do it at a 5 o'clock, do the baptismal service, let them sing outside, and then weather permitting, we're planning to do an outdoor fellowship where you bring your own snacks after the service, and we'll have a wonderful time on June the 19th. June the 25th is Brian Witt's graduation celebration, and he has selected to make it a youth get-together, and it's not just limited to the youth, but it is at Master's Provision. How many are familiar with Master's Provisions? Anybody? All right. There are some that are. And it is a Christian humanitarian aid program and something similar to Matthew 25. And so he has opted for that youth get-together that the youth is going to be a part of, and anybody else that wants to be a part of it, to donate some time to Master's Provision. And so I do not have all of the details in front of me, but the details are out there on the bulletin board in the foyer. And there'll be a certain time where everybody will meet at Master's Provision. They'll donate a little bit of time, and then there will be transportation from there back to the church here, where there will be a short graduation ceremony and then a meal that follows that. And so that is what Brian is desiring for his graduation celebration. I think that's a great idea. And so all the youth, I think you have your own invitation. The families of the youth have their own invitations. If there's somebody that did not get an invitation, since it's kind of a youth get-together, but you want to be a part of it, there is a sign-up sheet out there in the bulletin board, and she will need to know if you're planning to participate or not, just so that she can know about food preparation and so forth. So if you have any questions about that, you can certainly talk to Brian, Sister Witt, Lyle Witt, but there's also information on the bulletin board, and we encourage you to participate in that. Further on out, it'll be here before you know it. On June the 28th, the Tuesday evening, is the VBS Community Calling, and so we want to go out and share the news about our Vacation Bible School in the communities that we reach out to. And then VBS is June 29 through July 3rd. And it's an exciting thing to have Jeremy and Esther Hopkins to come for that, and so we look forward to that. Let me back up, way back up, all the way to next week, this coming week. And this next Wednesday night is a celebration for Jennifer Scott and her graduation, and the Scott family will be providing cake and appetizers after the service for a time of fellowship, and so you be mindful of that. All right, I think that's all the announcements I need to share tonight. That was a whole slew of them, but I think that's all of them for tonight. It's a delight to have the Kings to come and share a little bit about their missions trip, and I'm not going to steal any of their thunder, but they are going to come and talk about an opportunity that was given to them and an opportunity that they've taken advantage of, and planning a missions trip this summer. And so they're going to come and share a little bit about that. And I want you to be thinking about what you want to give in the offering tonight. Anything that is not marked will go towards this, making it possible for the Kings to take this missions trip. And so you be thinking about that. Once they're done with their presentation, we'll be lifting an offering. Caleb, Emily, so glad you're a part of our church. I am just thrilled at how God has been working in their life. And I think back a few years ago when Caleb came here and the difference that God has made in his life. And then a huge difference in his life when Emily joined his side. And even what God's done in Emily's life, I'm so grateful. And so glad you're a part of our church. Why don't you come and share? I think they've got a couple songs also in their program. But the Lord bless them as they share at this time.
Well, hi all. Thank you so much for letting us talk to you tonight about this New York trip. We're both super excited about it. But before we talk about it, we decided we'd sing for you. I think this is the part I'm most nervous about. So, but I'm really excited to be able to share this with you. And this song especially is really special to us because we both do want to be all for Jesus. We both want to live our lives completely for God. And walk wherever He opens the doors and wherever He leads us. And I'm so excited that we get to take this trip and we get to follow wherever He does lead.
I am thine, O Lord, I have heard thy voice, and it told thy love to me. But I long to rise in the arms of faith, and be closer drawn to thee. Draw me nearer, 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 blessed Lord, to the cross where thou consecrate me now to thy service, Lord, by the power of grace divine. Let my soul look up with a steadfast hope, and my will be lost in thine. Draw me nearer, 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 blessed Lord, to the cross where thou hast died. Draw me nearer, 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 blessed Lord, to thy precious bleeding side.
Well, like I said, we're so glad that we get to be here and we get to talk to you about this New York trip, and we're so excited about it. But God has really been working in both of our lives and opening doors to make this possible. And this is not something we thought we would be doing a year ago. We had no idea about this mission in New York, and we're really excited about the doors He's opened. And before we knew about this New York trip, we had recently gotten married. We were living here in Florence, and I guess we haven't been married that long, but it feels like a while ago. Living in Florence, and we're both working at Chick-fil-A, and it kind of just felt like we weren't doing enough. We didn't feel like we were doing enough. We felt like we could be doing so much more. We have such a heart to reach out to people and talk to people and tell them about the gospel, and we want to be out doing things. We don't want to just be sitting there. And we were kind of discouraged just working at Chick-fil-A. It just felt like we weren't doing enough. And then God really showed us the need around us, the people around us, the people we were with every single day. We started really seeing the hurt and the need in our coworkers, the people we walked into work with, and He was opening with each day, and I was going in and working alongside of them. And there's so much hurt and so much need in each of their lives, and we're like, well, we could be doing something here. We can be doing something now. We're not here in Florence for no reason. God didn't just put us here and leave us here to figure it out on our own, and then some big trip will come up and we'll do that all of a sudden. We want to do something here and now. And He gave us the idea, and He's opened up the doors and given us the opportunities to invite our coworkers to our homes on Sunday nights. And we've had talks with them outside of work about the basic message of the gospel. I was taking a class in evangelism last semester, actually, and I would have to meet with people and give them the basic message of the gospel. And it was amazing to me, the people that didn't know, that had no idea what the Bible even said. And they were working right alongside me, right here in Kentucky. They have all these churches around them, and I just thought that everyone knew what the Bible said, I guess, growing up. But it was amazing to me how they just didn't know. And I had amazing talks with all kinds of people, starting with that class, and then we started inviting people to our home. These are some pictures of people coming to our home, if you can see them. And it's so fun. We just have games and snacks, and it's opened up conversations. There's this one girl that actually came with us to church on Easter. She's up there on the screen. Her name's Kelly. She's a coworker of ours, and she really, really wants to know what's in the Bible. And it's the opportunity to have a Bible study with her each week has opened up, and she and I actually meet regularly once a week, meet together for a little Bible study, and she has so many questions, so much she wonders. And it's so neat to see that while we're here in Florence, while we're here in Kentucky, God is able to use us in little ways, it seems, but we're so excited, so happy when He is able to use us. These Bible studies, I think, are more encouraging to me than anything. I get to just see someone. I get to sit with someone who's asking questions, who's searching. And it's just so neat to me that there are people right here alongside of us that do want to hear the gospel.
One of the things that I thought was neat while we was doing all this, I was one that was more discouraged probably than she was. I was just like, I'm spinning my wheels here. I feel like we're getting nowhere. And I was expressing that to her. I was like, what are we doing? And she said, well, open your eyes. And I started doing that, looking around at all the people around us. I said, wow, there is so much hurt and pain right here where we're at. What can we do now to start being a light to those around us? So, and I actually talked to Sherilyn as well about the bus ministry a while ago and started getting involved in that. I said, Caleb, you need to start actively praying about this and actually having a burden for it and taking it more seriously. And the Lord sort of spoke to me and He said, Caleb, I can't trust you with these big things and these big trips until you start doing excellence in the small things and making an impact where you're at. And so that was kind of a big eye-opener to me, and he's been helping us. Obviously, it's a journey, but He's definitely helped us along the way with that.
And this is definitely something we've really enjoyed doing. In these pictures, if you can see them at all, the one on that far side is our friends Lane and Brooke, and they actually have come to several of our Sunday night get-togethers, and they help us like put the food together and get everyone kind of keep them entertained with like games and like talking and everything. And it's just been really good times with different groups. We try to add different pictures, but sometimes we forget to take some. But we just always have a really good time, and I'm so grateful for these moments we get to spend here and now, and we get to see Him working right here with us where we are.
And one of the things about those people, some of them are people we could never get. When we said church, immediately they run, but like a little get-together or something, it's more of an open door and allows us to work and be an influence. Even if we're not sharing the gospel directly, it allows us to be a light and an influence to them.
There are even people that, in one of these pictures, that don't even speak English. We had some families from work. They're from Guatemala, I think. And the ladies we work with, they speak English, and their kids do. But they brought their husbands along. No English. They don't speak it at all. And so Caleb especially was trying to talk to them about what he does. And they were communicating with their phones, just showing each other videos. And it was really neat that we have a language barrier, but we're still able to try to connect, invite them over. I think their wives translated a little bit for us when we tried to tell them something. And it was just really neat that people that I probably never would have talked to anywhere else because, well, I don't speak Spanish at all. We're able to talk to, open up our home to, and invite them over and show them the love of Jesus in a way that I never would have thought of.
All right, and this kind of leads us into the trip to New York that we'll be taking here in a couple weeks. I was at work, and it is a little bit after we had been talking about how I was discouraged with things, and I was trying to do things right where we was at. And we was going to Oklahoma, Bartlesville, Oklahoma, on sort of looking at a missions organization that we thought about working for and kind of seeing how that was. And I was telling people at work about that trip. You know, I was excited about doing it, the gospel and all that, and a customer was there and overheard me speaking about it. And I was just talking about ministry, and he could tell I was very excited. And he came up to the counter and was like, he said, "Did I overhear you talking about Voice of the Martyr Ministries?" That was the organization. And I was like, yeah. And he started telling me that he had worked with them several times and started sharing some of what he did. And he's actually with an organization called Urban Harvest Ministries. He gave me his card, and we started meeting every once in a while, every couple of weeks. And A couple weeks later, he presented to me this idea about going to New York to do a 3-week internship and share the gospel, and that's kind of how this came to pass. So would you like to tell a little bit about the trip, babe?
Yeah, of course. So when we went to Oklahoma, we were really excited about it. We wanted to check out Voice of the Martyrs and see if this was possibly something that God was opening up the door for, because Caleb has had such a heart for the persecuted church for a long time. And since meeting him, I have also learned more about the persecuted church and gained a heart and such a burden for the people that are suffering in other countries. And the idea that we could work with Voice of the Martyrs was really exciting to us, that we could help with them. But it was very clear to us when we went to Oklahoma that God was saying, no, not right now. This isn't for you. But even through that, we were able to meet Dr. Tom. And Dr. Tom's not just some complete stranger that was just a customer at Chick-fil-A. He actually is a friend of a director there at Chick-fil-A. So we know someone who also knows him and has worked with him and lived with him in New York actually for a while and did ministry with him. And it was really neat that trip, even though it was a no for what we thought may have been a possibility, an open door, opened the door for another opportunity and another missions trip, another missions opportunity in New York. And so we're going to be going to the South Bronx, New York. And if you don't know what the South Bronx, New York is, if you're like me and didn't really know what the different places in New York was called, that's the rough part of New York. That's the part of New York where you keep your doors locked at all times and you keep your special little satchel on you so you don't get pickpocketed, kind of New York. And though it's the rough part, this is where there's so much darkness and people are so hungry for the truths. People are looking for that light. The gospel needs to be spoken to these people that are so lost. And we're going to be going on July 15th, and we're going to be gone until August 5th. So I am so thankful that we do work at Chick-fil-A. Even though it was discouraging for a while, they are letting us take off all that time to go on this trip. And even some of the people we work with are so excited for us. Our friend Brian, or especially Caleb's friend, he's good friends with him, is so excited. He used to live in New York. He used to do ministry with Dr. Tom there in New York. And he's supporting us. He's encouraging us. He's supporting us in any way he can with prayers and giving us some gifts, and even helped us with a projector for our first service at a different, at Somerset Church. He helped us with that service even. And it's just such an encouragement that the people we work with even are able to encourage us on this missions trip, and that their owner is letting us take off so much time to go.
As I was looking through scriptures to share and stuff to use with this service, I found Luke 10:2, and it said, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into his harvest field." And when I read that, I was like, Lord, I want to be a part of that. I want to be one of those workers in that field, and I don't know where that specific location will be. But wherever it is, I want to be actively serving you, being a light for you, and leading others to you. I have a couple verses here. Whoops. John 20, verse 21. Then Jesus said to them again, "Peace be unto you, as my Father hath sent me, even so send I you." And as I was thinking about it, she said the rougher area of South Bronx, New York. Was like, well, me and Emily going there, I don't know, that's going to be kind of a rough situation. I want to be safe and not be foolish. And I prayed about it, and I felt like the Lord gave me this verse. Peace be unto you really jumped out to me. I was like, Lord, I want the center of your will is the safest place to be. And I know you can keep us safe wherever, even in South Bronx, New York. And nothing's going to happen that you didn't already know about. And that was just a really encouraging thought to me. And this is kind of our testimony, Joshua 24:15. This doesn't exactly have to do with the missions trip. This is more of a personal testimony. "But if serving the Lord seems undesirable to you, then choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve, whether the gods your ancestors served beyond the Euphrates, or the gods of the Amorites, in whose land you are living. But as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord." And that's what I want to be clear to you all about him. That's how we're living our lives. We are going to serve the Lord wherever and however he wants us to. That is our true desire in our lives, and our deepest desire is to serve him and to ultimately make heaven our goal.
With the second verse that he talked about, I remember when he read that verse and he was like, we have to use this in our service. It was right before we did the one in Somerset, Kentucky at his parents' church. He's like, we have to do this. He's like, I do feel such a peace about going. We have been praying about this for a very long time. When it was first told to us, we didn't say yes right away. We took time and we prayed and we were like, is this what you really want? Because we know that the South Bronx is completely different than what either of us are used to. I mean, I grew up in the middle of nowhere in Indiana, literally 4 cornfields on all sides. Nobody locks their doors out there. It's family all down the road. I don't even think there's a stranger within 10 miles. And it's a very, very, very safe place where I grew up. And that's just kind of what I'm used to. Moving to Cincinnati for college, and then he lived in Cincinnati for a while. I mean, that's quite a bit different. But we're going to a place that's completely different. I'm not surrounded by GBS in the middle of Cincinnati, or we're not in our safe little apartment in Florence. We're in the South Bronx. And that verse is so comforting to us both, knowing that this is what we believe God's leading us and showing us where he wants us to go. And if this is his will, if we are in the center of his will, then yes, I do believe that we're going to be safe. I have peace about it. I'm not worried. Even though it's a rough area, I'm not worried about it. I trust that God is leading us and that he'll protect us and that we're following it as well.
As far as the mission goes, this is the mission statement from actually Urban Harvest, and I'll go ahead and read the beginning of it. It is our mission to equip leaders for relevant ministry among the urban poor and to implement strategic, relevant evangelism and discipleship among the urban unchurched. And that's kind of what our mission is to change lives down there. We're not going to go handing pamphlets, inviting someone to a specific location. More of what we'll be doing is praying with them, setting up prayer stations, and we just want to be a light for them and share the gospel with them through that.
I know a lot of people have been wondering what kind of like mission we're going with. I know my mom specifically was like, are you going with TLC? Like, what's the mission again? And the Urban Harvest may not be one that you've heard of before, but the people behind it have such a heart and such a burden for the people in the South Bronx, for the people in the urban, unchurched areas. I'm currently reading a book by the guy who helped start the ministry, and when I was reading it, it was talking about the South Bronx before the ministry was started, and he was walking through the streets, and it was just such a rough area. So many people are living such hard, difficult lives, and this is where, in a place where it seems like God is nowhere to be seen, this is where God told him he wanted him to start this ministry. And this is a place that, a ministry you may not have heard of before, but it's people that have such a burden to do God's will, to do God's work for the people around them. And they have such a burden for the lost souls in this city. Right here for this slide, this is talking about the strategy. So kind of the strategy for what we'll be doing while we're in the South Bronx. Of course, we're going to be praying. Prayer is our number one, the number one thing we're going to be doing there. We're going to be doing prayer walks, prayer stations, praying with people, offering them hope, the hope of Jesus, the love of Jesus to them. And we're going to be helping to establish prayer initiatives in the cities, uniting followers of Christ and focusing on the one who must lead any effort for change. Without God, that area is not going to change at all. Man alone can't change it.
Something I wanted to add about the prayer stations and prayer walks, something I'd never really thought about. One thing they do is when they go calling, they have access to these apartments where they know the owners and they can go door to door. But they will actually stand in front of that door and say a prayer, and they won't knock unless they feel led, because there's hundreds of doors to go through. And it's just kind of a neat thing because they're not actually wasting time knocking on every door, but they're kind of saying a prayer and trying to discern the Lord's will on whether or not they should actually knock and talk to that person about Jesus.
And the next one is networking. So they're going to be developing partnerships between suburban and urban Christians and churches. So the urban churches there, it's in the book that I'm reading, it's very interesting, and I'm trying to get more into it. But in the book I'm reading, it's talking about how the churches were so closed off to the people just on the streets. And it was like they were scared of the people in the streets. They had a guard in front of the door during the services when people were in there. The doors were locked to the public, and it was just, they just felt scared in the South Bronx, and the people just felt so disconnected from it. There wasn't much outreach going on. And what they want to do is they want to provide church, bring God to the people, not have them disconnected from it, not let them think the church is some whole other culture, whole other unattainable thing that they don't want any part of. Bring it to them and show them Jesus. There's also other different things that we'll be doing there: empowering, equipping, serving, engaging, sharing ownership. There's all kinds of different things we'll be helping with. We're not 100% certain what we're going to be doing each day. We're kind of like going in and feeling it out as we go, following along, helping where we're needed. I mean, we know about the prayer walks. We know about the prayer stations we're going to be part of. I think we're going to be helping with youth ministry, with the kids at some point. I know there are a ton of people there that live in New York and serve each and every day. Their ministry is there in New York. And we're going to try to help give them a little break where they need it, and so that they can continue to serve and not get burnt out. And we're going to be there teaching the Muslims. I think we're meeting with Muslim families in an English class. I've never taught English before, but I think I speak it pretty all right. So we're going to be trying to teach English to the Muslim families that are there. And there's just so many different things that he was naming off that we'll get to be a part of. And it's such an exciting new thing. I've been on one mission trip one other time. My cousins let me come with them to Honduras, but it was a completely different thing. I am not a nurse by any sort of means. I don't know how to build, I don't know how to lay brick either, and that's kind of what the whole point of the missions trip was. So my job while I was there was scrubbing laundry and babysitting the missionaries' kids, and sometimes some of the Honduran kids would come too. But that was about the extent of my experience in Honduras. As amazing and wonderful as that missions trip was, this one is going to be so much more hands-on. It's going to be so much more involvement that I get to be a part of, and it's something I'm so excited about, and it's so new to me, but it's something I just want God to lead in and show us how we can help.
Another thing that Tom actually spoke to me about what they was going to do is they have these block parties, and a lot of these block parties are right where drug dealers on every corner, and they'll get bounce houses and do all kinds of things, play music, and just have good fellowship with the people around and show them that they can have fun as well. And it's just kind of a neat thing that I've never done before, but I think it's pretty exciting, and I think it's a great idea because a lot of those people, you mentioned church, they're going to laugh at you, but you can share the gospel through that.
And I think that's something that God has kind of been showing us in a little way with the people we invite over to our homes from work. I mean, Caleb and I love hosting. We love opening up our home. We love having people over, and we love organizing last-minute parties. Usually they're pretty spontaneous, it feels, but we love organizing that sort of thing and just fellowshipping, wholesome, good fun. And I think that's probably a lot of what we're going to be doing during the block parties, and something I think we're pretty good at.
This talks about a little bit of what we already talked about. The language classes and helping with children's ministry. But a lot of those kids, there's nothing to do, and so they find bad things to do because there's not a lot of good things, good programs. And so they'll try to develop some good programs and things for the kids to do while we're there, just to keep them out of trouble, really, keep them distracted.
Yep. And that picture there in the corner, I tried to add some pictures throughout the slides, but that picture in the corner is actually Dr. Tom in New York during, I think, either one of the prayer walks or the prayer stations. One of the girls that came up to him during the prayer station just wanted to have prayer, and he was able to offer prayer to her during that time.
And something interesting about the prayer walks, I had never heard of that, but they'll actually take groups and they'll walk around the city and they'll kind of claim that city for God basically, and then they'll meet at a certain point, but they'll walk around the whole city praying for it, and that's something that I'm really excited to be a part of. And he said it's very effective with the ministry and kind of helps open hearts and prepare hearts for the outreach.
And so I know we're going to a crazy place, and what we really, really, really ask for is for your prayers. We need your prayers more than anything else, because we are going to a place that's totally different, is a completely different culture than either of us have ever experienced, and it's something that we would really appreciate is if you just remembered us in your prayers, if you could help us pray. If you're wondering how to pray, because sometimes when I sit in mission services, they'll say, please help us pray, and I'll be like, dear Lord, please help them in their mission service, but I don't know what exactly they're doing. Like, what am I supposed to be praying for? What is it specifically you need? And Dr. Tom tried to help us come up with things that we can pray for to prepare for the trip and while we're on the trip. And I think it's really neat that he gave us points that we can pray for specifically, areas that we really will need help with. And one of those is that God will lead us to the people whose hearts are open to God's word. There's so many people that you can come across with, no matter where you are, and they're completely turned off to God's word. They don't want to hear anything about it. I know even at work, when I've talked to some people, I have experienced, there's this one lady that's completely against hearing about the Bible at this point. At first she was open, but I think she's really, she felt, anyways, she just doesn't want to hear about it anymore. Very turned off to the Bible. And it's really difficult to talk to those people, and you're not really going to get anywhere. But we pray that God will lead us to people whose hearts are open to his word, who will listen and who will receive it, and people that their lives can be changed. We also pray that God will give us wisdom, because that's something that I need day to day. I need daily, but especially on this trip, wisdom while we're going day-to-day life. We pray that God will help us to encourage the believers that are already there. There's so many people living there in the South Bronx. That's where they live. That's where they grew up. They got saved there in the South Bronx, are now a part of the church, and now helping reach others that they grew up with and they live around. And I can only imagine, I know sometimes Caleb and I will feel discouraged from time to time. The devil will really fight us, and we'll feel discouraged. But we are surrounded by such a wonderful church, such a wonderful support system. We are relieved on Wednesday nights, I know a lot of the time. We'll get here early and we're like, oh, Wednesday night church, we're so glad we're here. We're so glad we have this. And it's just a little refreshing. We get this support system. We get such wonderful people. But these people in the city, they don't have that many people there for them. It's just a little group of believers trying to reach one person at a time around them in such a rough area. And we hope that as we go, we can help encourage the people that are there and give them that fresh encouragement to keep going, keep serving Jesus, and keep reaching those who are lost.
This is one of the things I meant to share about the strategy, but is developing leaders, and that was part of it, is develop leaders that go somewhere and they try to develop leaders that will help in ministry and the church, and then they move on to another place. So there's also one in, is it Detroit?
Yeah, there's one, Urban Harvest has a ministry in Detroit as well, trying to raise up leaders, reaching the people in the rough area that is there too.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of neat how they would make them where they can be on their own and then still help them and encourage them, but not where they have to be there all the time. So
we also pray that God will give us protection, though we both have a peace, and we know that if we're in the center of God's will, that's the safest place to be. We still know that we will be in an area where it's different and it's a little bit rough of an area. We do pray for God's protection while we're there, that we're safe while we're flying there, while we're flying back, while we're there trying to get around using public transportation, all that sort of thing that we have to figure out. We pray that God will protect us while we're there. We also pray that God will help us grow in Christ and to spread his love to the hopeless and the hurting. We sang that song earlier about how we are thine, I am thine, O Lord. And I want that to be my testimony, to be true, to continue walking, to continue saying, I am thine, Lord, I am all yours. And I want to continue to just grow, to continue to learn. I know I have so much to learn. I have so much growing to do. But I pray that God will help us to grow on this trip ourselves, and through us also be able to help those who are hopeless and who are hurting and searching for Him. And then that God will keep us encouraged and healthy as we follow where He leads. I really would not like to be sick on this trip. I'm praying that we stay healthy, because when I'm sick, I'm a pretty big baby. I don't want to do anything. I just kind of want to stay in bed. And I want to be able to be useful and to be used, and I want to be able to help those around us. And finally, I pray that ultimately God's will be done in our lives, wherever He leads. We just want to be in the center of His will. We want to follow Him, and His will, we want His will done in our lives. We don't want our will, because what I could think is right could be totally wrong, but God's will is ultimately right, and such a wonderful, wonderful place to be.
And after we talked about this prayer, this is a good spot for us to talk about prayer partners. If anyone after church would like to talk to us about that, basically what it is someone who is going to say that they're going to pray for us every day while we're in New York. And we will get your email, mailing address, and then we will give you updates as we do the ministry and something kind of neat while we're at New York, so you can be updated on what's going on.
Just having your prayers is what's most important to us, and we would just really appreciate it. If you just remember us in your prayers now before we go, as we're kind of preparing and getting ready to go to New York, especially while we're in New York, while we're there, hands-on, involved in the ministry. And even after that, the people there, their lives will be touched, and that their lives will be truly changed for Jesus. And then finally, we added some pictures here to kind of get you kind of an idea of what we're going to be doing and the people we're going to be with. So the big picture on the left with everyone in the blue shirts, Caleb and I will most likely be either in those shirts or very similar shirts, because that's how the people there know who we are. So Dr. Tom talked about us needing something that distinguishes us, that we're for the church and what we're doing. And part of that is just the t-shirts that we wear. I think they say hope on the back, and they're just very distinguishable. The people know who we are when they see us on the streets. They know that they can come to us for prayer. They know that we're there for them, that we're there serving, and it's also kind of a way of keeping us safe as well. People who see us are like, oh, they're with the church, and
Or Pastor Tom specifically.
or
probably.
with Pastor Tom specifically. They're, kind of hopefully keep us a little safer while we're there. Over there in the right-hand corner is just someone with the ministry, one of the groups that went, him praying at Prayer Station. There's a ton of different groups that come in. We are not the first people to go to the ministry and help out. There have been a ton of different groups, a ton of different people that help. Actually, while we're there, there's going to be a youth group that comes for a week or a couple
I think it's
days, something like that. But we're going to be working with the youth group that comes in for a little bit, and working alongside of them on prayer stations and all the different activities there. And then finally, in the bottom right-hand corner is just a picture of Dr. Tom, his wife, and his 2 kids. I can't remember his kids' names or his wife's name.
I'm not sure we have.
But Dr. Tom is there on the very far corner, and that's who is helping us with this ministry, who we're going to be meeting, who set up our housing for us, and who we're just going to be spending a lot of time with while we're there in New York.
And that's one thing we're thankful for. We don't have to worry about. The ministry there's a church lady there that is going to open her home to us and allow us a place to stay. So that is going to be very helpful.
Yeah, and it was neat. We were on a Zoom call together, and we got to meet her and say hi to her. And she seemed very excited that we were coming, so that was really neat and really exciting. Are you going to show them the video?
After we sing.
All right. And then we have another song for you. And this song's pretty special. It's, it's pretty simple too. It's little as much when God is in it. And Caleb and I on our own, we couldn't do anything. It's only through God that any change can happen, anything could truly happen. And our little actions ultimately aren't what matter. It's what God does that matters.
And after this, if you don't mind, Tim, cutting the live stream, we'll talk a little bit about the persecuted church.